Grinnell is going to make history with the new Grinnell Historical Museum. They already have a museum, but they bought an old furniture store and are going to have more space available. It's going to be available for handicapped people. It's going to have more exhibits, and it's all on one level. And I got a tour of it today. It's very impressive. And my interview guest will be with Ann Igoe, who is a board member and volunteer for the Grinnell Historical Museum. And we'll hear about that in just a couple of moments. But first of all, let's talk about some things going on in Grinnell. Bruce and Laura Blankenfeld are looking for volunteers for bell ringers for the Red Kettle campaign of the Salvation Army. And they say if you know of any group or individuals that could help, get a hold of Bruce at 641-990-1152, 641-990-1152. And I understand there are several dates and locations available to volunteer for bell ringing for the Salvation Army. Also, coming up on Sunday, mark your calendars. It's the end of harvest breakfast, and it's hosted by the Poweshiek County Pony Express. Again, this will be Sunday from 7 to 11 a.m. Sounds like a pretty tasty breakfast at 606 Stagecoach Road, Suite number 1, behind the Super 8 Hotel. This is for a free will donation, and all proceeds go to the Easter Seals Camp Sunnyside. Our sponsors include Grinnell State Bank with all their locations in Grinnell, Johnston, Marengo, and Polk City. And you can get started opening your accounts in just 15 minutes at Grinnell State Bank. If you're not sure what you need, check out Simply Banking and open your accounts online or in person at any of their 4 locations. They have financial advisors, loan officers, and insurance agents working under the same roof. They have master debit cards along with no monthly fees on those debit cards. Our other sponsor includes Total Choice Shipping and Printing in downtown Grinnell. Total Choice is now offering FedEx One rate just in time for the holiday season. 2-day rental shipping, 1 flat rate. FedEx One rate offers 4 different sizes of boxes and 1 size of envelope. Each size of FedEx box and envelope will have its own price, and as long as it fits inside and is shipped within the U.S., it's a flat rate price of $17.95 at Total Choice Shipping and Printing in downtown Grinnell. It's time for another edition of Out and About with Jamie Grout, and my interview guest is Ann Igoe, who is a board member and volunteer for the Grinnell Historical Museum. And you already have a museum here, but you are remodeling an old furniture store to make it an even bigger and better museum. It's very exciting. Where did the idea for this come from, Ann?
Well, our idea came because our current location is very small. It's very Victorian, and we were just flat out of room, and it wasn't ADA accessible. So we weren't having very many visitors. We also have quite a few large pieces that we weren't able to display. So we want to tell all of Grinnell's history, and we were able to do that in a bigger space. So we've dreamed about this for a long time.
That's fantastic. And if you hear any noise in the background,
Right.
It's because we're in the building and they're remodeling. And you showed me around, and they're making some pretty good progress.
It's almost finished. We hope to be done in the second week of December.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Just with the building. We haven't furnished it yet.
You bet. What is your fundraising goal? Because I know you're heading into another campaign.
We are. We want to raise about $300,000, and $200,000 of that will do the furnishing and the storage equipment and all of the finite things you need to run it well. And then another $100,000 will give us 2 years of a full-time employee. Very close to that. We've never had an employee.
Oh, you never have?
We've just recently had a part-time employee, which now we cannot possibly get rid of this employee, but in order to do what we want to do with the new space, we need a full-time employee, and that takes a regular cash influx.
Oh, sure.
So we hope to get started with a little push from fundraising.
That's great, Ann. How has the response from the Grinnell community been?
It's spectacular. It's just amazing. We've had tremendous donor support. We've always had good donor support, but it's even better now. And then we've had some really nice discounted labor and things like that from our vendors and our contractors. So everyone's being very, very helpful.
I was going to say, you've gotten to know these people pretty well that are remodeling. It's like the electrician came in, and you feel like he's a member of the family.
They are friends. They've been here for 4 months. We've also been really successful. We have a good state grant for a couple $100,000. The city's been very, very helpful. So our fundraising's gone really well.
Good. Now, you plan to have this open what, in June of next year? Is that
June
right?
next year. Hopefully 21st, 28th, we'll have a big celebration. Once we get the floors polished and the city signs off on all of our remodeling, we'll be able to have people come into the building and look around while we get organized for exhibits. Right. So,
okay. And you're talking about the fundraising that's going on right now, and how much you want to raise. I saw online that Bruce and Laura Blankenfeld had posted in I think What's Up Grinnell or something like that. You have different levels of giving and for different things.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that, Ann?
Well, it depends on whether you're talking about our annual donor support.
Any of them.
So that's what we always do this time of year is an annual help us out. And we do, the levels are as $25 to up to $2,000. And you get different goodies with the $2,000 level. But I think when we get started in the new space, it will be more meaningful because we can have events where people can be members and come to a members only event. Currently in the house we have, if you're not able to climb a lot of stairs, you can't come into the museum. And we don't have restrooms and things like that. So the new museum will be much more user friendly, and we'll be able to do so much more. It'll be great. Great.
Boy, you guys have lots of good plans, and it sounds like this has been a dream that you've had for a long time. Now, we talked a little bit before the podcast on how I found out some things about Newton and Jasper County through the museum, that there were like 7 washing machine manufacturers at one time in Newton, but you said there was like a patent war going on between manufacturing Grinnell and Newton.
Right. Grinnell had a Grinnell washing machine company, and they were running at the same time as Maytag was getting started. And that was not unusual. There were many washing machine companies in Kellogg as well.
Okay.
It was a big deal to have a washing machine on the farm. And so everyone was building them. But so we did have patent wars with Maytag, and I think Grinnell won a few of them. But Grinnell Washing Machine Company went on to build refrigerators and at one time knitting needles. I mean, they just water heaters. They did all kinds of things, but they went out of business in 1930s due to the Depression. But they were big at the time, which was kind of fun.
I can imagine. Can you give us some other historical facts about Grinnell and Poweshiek County?
Yeah, well, we started in 1854, which is kind of late for some Grinnell cities, or from Iowa cities, but J.B. Grinnell and 3 other people wanted to build a town that was focused on abolition, temperance, education, and religion. Not unusual for the time, but they found Grinnell by talking with a surveyor on the train one day, and the surveyor said, "You should go to Iowa." And I'm surveying it now for the railroad. And there's one place in Poweshiek County. I don't think it was Poweshiek County at the time, but there was one place where it was a high hill and 2 railroads would cross there very nicely. And that's where we are right now.
That's great.
The crossing of the railroad is a couple blocks away.
That's very interesting. Industry has been a big thing in Grinnell too throughout the years.
Yes, we have a lot of good industry, starting with Mr. Spalding, who had a blacksmith shop.
Sure.
And then there was a company called Craver Austin Steel, and they built called a Randolph header, and that was a threshing machine. And it was interesting in that the horses who pulled that machine were at the back of the thresher.
Oh, they pushed them.
They pushed. Well, it looked like they pushed, but they were actually racked up so that they pulled.
Really?
They pulled the something behind them that was connected to the front of the thresher.
I see. Okay.
So the first thing into the field was the threshing machine. And so you saved a lot. But it was a machine that was really useful in large fields. So they sold it in Argentina, Russia, Australia, all over the world where there were large fields of grain needing to be harvested. They sold 10,000 of them before they left Grinnell in 1891, and they shipped them on the railroad. all over all
Wow.
over. So it was pretty impressive. And they left here because they lost their preferred status on the railroad. So the railroad decided it was going to cost them more to ship their stuff.
Yeah. Go ahead, continue.
So then after they left, Mr. Spalding took over their building and built buggies. And he built buggies just about the same way they built all the headers, just thousands of them. He had an interesting approach to selling his buggies. He sent salesmen out with 5, 6, 8 buggies all lined up in a row, pulled by a team of horses. So they trailed them, and then they dropped them off as they sold them. But they had a little trouble in Texas.
Oh.
Texas had buggy manufacturers as well. So they didn't want the Spalding trailers coming into Texas. So there's information. I'm not sure it's really terribly true about them being kicked out of Texas, but then we have information of salesmen who say they had trouble in Texas.
Really?
So interesting stuff. But they were the only ones that sold their buggies that way.
I know that Grinnell Mutual has been a big part of Grinnell for as long as I can remember. Do you know anything about that history?
They started very early with Mr. Evans, and I was just researching his wife's family and ran into Mr. Evans that way. But yeah, they started with an insurance company, and he also was one of the first people that did the Farm Bureau in Poweshiek County. He had 3 brothers-in-law, and they all were participating in that. So there's a lot of good history that way as well. But yeah, Grinnell Mutual started as an insurance company, and he was very active.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
Now, you showed me around here, and this, I might have mentioned before, used to be a furniture store, and you have some really wide open spaces in the front of the building there. Can you tell me what kind of displays that you're looking at having, Ann?
Sure. We're going to have a few permanent displays. One will be about Billy Robinson, who was an early aviator here. He was one of the first people that did airmail delivery from Chicago. He also died early. He had an airplane factory. He made planes, and he and a friend of his developed a radial engine, a 6-cylinder radial engine. So we have one of those engines, and that will be displayed here. He died really early from an airplane accident. He was trying to make a height record and crashed. So he obviously, they think he got as high as he wanted to go. He wanted to get 10,000 feet, or more. Anyway, I don't remember how many. A lot of, anyway, he went higher than anyone had gone before, but didn't make it. So his story is a unique one. He was just getting a contract with the Army for his engines, and then he died, and so nothing happened after that. So he'll have a good exhibit. We have another permanent exhibit that will be a grand piano that was donated to us by the family of a woman who is a composer and a concert pianist, and she went all over the world. And we have her piano, so that's pretty special. Other than that, we want to do exhibits that are temporary and movable. So we want to use mobile walls to identify an exhibit space. And it looks like with as much space as we have, we can put 5, 6, 8, 10 exhibits up at the same time. Never been able to do this before in the Victorian house. So we're learning a lot of lessons that we have not done before. We're pretty excited. This is unusual for a museum to not have rooms to fill in with exhibits. So it'll be a nice experiment, I think. And be able to show it off and hope it works.
And I know that you folks are hoping to make this an educational experience for children.
Very much. We want to be very hands-on. As much as possible, you can touch things and see how they work. We also want to do a lot of programming, workshops, kids camps, things like that. We're putting a lot of technology in with hopefully, panels that you can touch and move and do things with. And we have display panels where we can do videos and text stories and things like that pretty easily if we learn how to do it. it should be simple, but
I have to ask you this. Have you always been interested in history, Anne?
I have,
Uh-huh.
yes. And I think most of us have. We're pretty passionate about this building. And there's a group of us who've been meeting on Wednesday mornings at 7:30 for breakfast for about 5 years. There's a group of 6 of us that are committed
Well, that's great.
100%. So yeah.
You said you were raised in Newton.
I was.
and
Well, I grew up in
You
Newton.
grew up in Newton
Yeah.
anyway. Well, and so was I. And I remember when I was a kid, across from Plant 1, there was a Maytag Historical Museum.
I did not know that.
Yes, and it was quite nice. And now it belongs to the city, and they use it for the driver's license stations and other things. But Jasper County has its own museum now, so that's fantastic. And it's such a neat thing that you're doing here. Kids are going to learn so much about Grinnell and Poweshiek County that they didn't know.
They didn't know. No. We're looking at all the different kinds of exhibits we can make, and we have a partial list, over 150 exhibits that we think we could put on over a period of time, all about agriculture, business, industry, cultural life, just a lot of things. Interestingly enough, the middle school just started a history club.
Oh.
And they want to do something for the museum. So I'm hoping maybe they can develop a little exhibit for the opening day. Another is a 4-H club that we want to do the same thing with. So that's really involving kids, which is good.
In your mind, what makes a good museum?
A good museum tells stories about the past that identify and help you in the present and the future. I think it's a good way to relate to things that you maybe don't understand and I've always felt if you have a background on something, you can see how it applies to the future. One of the things we do really well in this museum is technology. And in the way of technology, we start with our old hand-rung telephone, and we then talk about telephones. And kids today don't have that understanding.
Yeah.
They don't even know where the dial came from.
Sure. Oh yeah.
They say, "What is this dial tone business?" I say, "Well," and then you show them a dial telephone, and they go, "Really? Can I try that?" Yeah. So,
and with the old crank telephones, you'd have to talk to the operator to get you connected, right?
I talk to the kids about that, and I say, not only do you talk to the operator, but anybody else who's on your party line is listening in as well. And they go, "No way." Yeah. People can listen to me.
Watch some reruns of the Andy Griffith Show.
Exactly.
That'll tell you what this is. That is kind of about.
Exactly. So whenever we can show the difference in technologies, we do. We have some old adding machines, that had the 9 numbers, little number buttons across the way, and now they use the computers. They use it on your phone, whatever. So kids don't have a real understanding of how things developed. Which is helpful. So
kids, there actually was a telephone number we'd call for the time and temperature.
Exactly.
And I remember that as a kid.
Exactly. It was important to do.
Yeah.
So
All right.
We're just really excited to share what we know about Grinnell.
Are you planning to have the museum open year round?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, and this is new, but it will all depend on whether we have a full-time employee. We've always just been volunteer run with docents and volunteers. So this is all new.
Well, great.
So,
that's good. That's good.
We do want to be open as much as possible.
Are you looking for items to be donated and exhibited at the museum?
Well, people have been terribly generous.
That's good.
To the point that we're now all suffering with storage units. But yes, we don't have much in the way of the sort of middle 20th century things. We have some wonderful vintage tools. We have a lot of Victorian era things. We would like some more history of Grinnell in the way of items that were meaningful in the 50s, 30s, 40s, 50s. They're tricky to find. I mean, people don't think they're history for one thing because they remember them.
Yeah.
But we need those kinds of things. People are donating very large things, which are a problem.
Oh.
Like I have 3 people who want to give me hay hooks, which are very large items.
Oh, sure.
They hang from the roof of a barn. we may be able to take one. We'll see. But we have a lot of space in our roof, so we might be able to do that. But
you have a plow out front too.
Well, no, it's a road grader.
A road grader. I'm sorry.
Yes, it's a Poweshiek County road grader.
Yeah, I'm not much of a farm kid.
No, well, I had to be and learned about it. Yeah. So interestingly enough, we found that it was one that graded the roads in Poweshiek County, and we found an old advertisement for the grader. This is Bill Hammond just walked by. He's the one that found it and fixed it. But the color, we've painted it, and it's yellow, red, and blue. And those were the colors it was when it was original. So it's kind of a showstopper right now.
You bet.
So sitting outside. Yeah, so it'll stay for a while.
If people want to donate some items or talk to you about the possibility of that, how can they do that, Ann?
They should talk to me, and you can get a hold of me through the museum. We have a website, Facebook, and Instagram, and all the Grinnell Historical Museum. The phone number is 641-236-7827. We have a part-time person there, so you'll probably have to leave a message. We'll get back to you. The email address is grinnellhistoricalmuseum@gmail.com, and I answer that every day. But I'm in the middle of the inventory process right now, trying to figure out what comes and how it comes over and how it gets stored. And then I also sorted out a lot of the exhibits.
Sure.
So I can tell what we need to have come. We will take any photograph. We will take almost any archival kind of program, like a yearbook or somebody's letters between their parents and things like that. Old ledger books are wonderful. Any kind of really history of businesses, we don't have much, and that would be lovely to have. We have some wonderful old autograph books that people did late 1800s, early 1900s, and those are spectacular. And I think people throw them away, but we'd love to have things like that. Anything that tells a story. Deeds, stock certificates, anything you think you might want to throw away, ask me first.
Well, I'm going to be a little prejudiced here.
No.
49 years in radio.
Yes.
I hope that you can have something maybe from the early days of KGRN.
Well, wouldn't that be fun? I don't know where it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's anybody listening or that would be viewing the video that would be in contact with Frosty Mitchell. I think he lives down in Key West or something.
He does, and he donates to the museum every year. I better get in touch with him.
He would be a good man to talk to about that.
I will do that.
Longtime, legendary broadcaster in the state of Iowa. Still remember his play-by-play of the Iowa girls basketball tournaments.
Yes.
And he was one of the first DJs at KIOA.
Okay.
So, he's their family, the Mitchell family, very generous.
Yes. Well, yes, they are very. I will contact him immediately.
You betcha.
That's perfect. Thank you for the suggestion.
You bet.
But those are the kinds of things that we need. Yep.
Okay, so as we get ready to wrap up, Ann, how can folks find out more information about the museum that you're remodeling and building here?
Well, we're going to try and keep a couple of things, and we're going to have a big article in the newspaper soon. I'm sending out to donors just in the next week a summary of what's been happening over the year, because a lot has happened in this building. They can certainly go to our website. And interestingly enough, we have a new database where we can share pictures of some of the items that we have. So that's out on the website. Facebook, we have someone who's trying to do a regular Facebook update, and Instagram. Contact us. Come see us.
Sure.
I don't know how appropriate this is, but we have people come over on Saturday mornings. We've been working on Saturday mornings, and you see these are all our vintage tools we've been cleaning.
Oh, sure.
I have more than we can handle. But so people come between 8 and 12 on Saturday mornings, and if they come around 10 o'clock, we usually have coffee and donuts. But we expect a donation if you come on Saturday morning. But we do. We have a lot of people that are very, very generous and very interested in what we're doing and helpful.
Well, Ann, I hope to be in attendance when you open the doors for this.
I hope
And
so too.
between now and then, what do you say we do an update and find out how things are progressing with this?
I would love to do that after the first of the year
Sure.
because we'll be able to show you a sample exhibit and
Mhm.
all kinds of good things.
Yes, and make sure if you're listening to this on my website, check out my Out and About with Jamie Grout Facebook page or my own personal Jamie Grout Facebook page because Ann is sending me some
I
pictures
am.
of the remodeling going on here at the future home of the Grinnell Historical Museum, making great progress. And kudos to you and your crew.
Thank you so much. I'm glad we could do this.
Our interview guest has been Ann Igoe, who is a board member and volunteer for the Grinnell Historical Museum on Out and About with Jamie Grout. Until next time, Grout is out. See ya.